You go public and 30 million people hear what you gotta say. Nothing, I mean nothing, will ever be the same again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Failed Award Contenders Retrospective.
We're winding down.
We're doing failed blockbusters soon. We'll get to it. Just quick note before introductions and shit. Matt and I were talking before. Some life changes are occurring. Nothing too drastic from the sounds of it. You're good, Matt?
Everything's great.
Okay, that's my co-host, Mike Ringo.
It's magical and beautiful, and I'm happy to be alive.
We're going to take we won't be taking a break, but you will be receiving a short break so we can kind of pile out some episodes for you, and then we will return with I believe the failed blockbusters.
Yeah, failed blockbusters will be what's next.
Okay, yeah.
We're gonna skip Happy Amblin for now. Apologies to Dan Doherty.
Yes, but Happy Amblin will return.
Yes.
And then after this final episode of the Failed Award Contenders, where we're talking about Michael Mann's The Insider, holy shit, finally. We'll be catching up on some other blockbusters that we did miss, like Scream 5, No Way Home, Eternals, and most recently, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, a.k.a. Sam Raimi's Return to the Big Screen.
Sam Raimi's back, baby.
Yeah, so there's like 3 Marvel movies in there. So you're welcome to all the shills.
Was there something else we were supposed to do?
If there was, we'll come back to it.
I'm trying to remember it, but I feel like there was like one other movie we were supposed to do, and now I can't think of it. So
I wrote them down when we were going over it, so I think it was just those 4.
Scream, Spider-Man,
Eternals.
I guess that's it, really. Like, we're kind of tacking on Multiverse of Madness because it's just how time. Like, had things gone as planned, we would not have tacked Multiverse of Madness on, but it's where we're at right now. So,
yeah. Michael Mann's 1999 film, The Insider. It's a Michael Mann movie. It's a masterpiece. Thank you for showing up, everyone.
Well, unfortunately, no one's really talked about Michael Mann ever, so we're kind of out in the wilderness on this one.
I know. I had to do a lot of research.
Yeah, what could we really focus in on to make people understand how this guy Michael Mann can make a movie real well?
I love hearing him talk because he's got that really thick Chicago accent.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, yeah, I was doing some undercover work with some of the Force guys around Chicago, and we're private agencies, and we're starting to get into really, the surveillance state. And it's just like, where's all of this coming from?
He honestly sounds like he owns a pizza parlor.
Hey, welcome to Michael Mann's Pizza Parlor.
Deep dish pizza. He's Pizza Papa.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started. We're saving that.
But I'm just saying, like, he does kind of not sound like his movie, and it honestly makes more sense in a weird way because like so many of his later movies feel like a dad who like read an MSNBC article or something, and he'd be like, "Did you hear what happened with this boat? And it's bringing soy futures over, like."
See, that's the problem with fucking Black Hat. Maybe that's a future failed blockbuster. That's the fucking problem with Black Hat, is that at least the media junket around it, because no one fucking talked to Michael Mann like they were talking to fucking Michael Mann. Mm-hmm. That was like the huge shift in 2015, I think, at least the mid 2010s. There's a huge shift towards like journalism and fandom, and by fandom I mean like journalists kind of became like an arm of the media marketing campaigns for a lot of these productions, unfortunately. And Black Cat is not suitable for that. So
I had this weird feeling of like, I thought like maybe if Black Hat had come out like even a year or two later, it would have done a little better. Like, because it was weird that a Michael Mann film was like unceremoniously just dumped in January, with no hype even from other film fans. Like, did you see Black Hat in theaters? I didn't either. Like, it's and it feels like we all kind of should have. And I was like, maybe just a few years later, but then Tokyo Vice is out right now. And no one...
And everyone saw the pilot.
Yeah, no one is talking about it.
Film Twitter.
No, film Twitter isn't even talking about it.
No, I've seen some people. It's trailed off.
I have seen a handful of people mention Tokyo Vice. I have not seen anyone go in on Tokyo Vice that didn't have to write a column about it. You know? Like, there's nothing organic. Like, with, let's say, The Northman, a movie that bombed, essentially. But everyone was talking about it, for better or worse. It seemed to be all over my timeline. But I was kind of like, I just thought when Tokyo Vice came out, there would kind of be like at least some interest, some casual interest, and there just isn't.
Or at least like an excuse for people to go, hey, remember how fucking good The Insider was?
Yeah, maybe it's because Film Twitter is always at that level of like every 3 days someone's like, hey, did you guys know that the movie Collateral is actually good? Like, and it's like, yes, we did, but it's okay to talk about it again. Like,
yes. And also remembering that Film Twitter is like a bubble. I know sometimes people are like, everyone just talks about Michael Mann here. They don't talk about him anywhere else, so sorry, but fuck off. You don't have to fuck off. Just like understand why it is that way. And it is because no one else is talking about him. Speaking of talking about stuff, this is my segue into the synopsis. The Insider is a 1999 American drama film directed by Michael Mann from a screenplay adapted by Eric Roth and Michael Mann from Marie Brenner's 1996 Vanity Fair article, The Man Who Knew Too Much.
That is all important to the episode we are discussing. Now, I want to go back and talk about Robert Eggers for a minute.
Okay, yes, go ahead, and then we'll get back.
You were talking about the film Twitter bubble, and the kind of weird... Robert Eggers seems to be, in the conversations I have seen, seems to be breaking through the film Twitter bubble against all odds.
Really?
Yeah, that people are talking about him, and it's one of those things, too, where the way people are talking about him is the way that people talk about Christopher Nolan, and it's a little frustrating.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, that's actually kind of exciting, to me, at least. I'm sure you're going to inform me of the
Well, no, you know that thing where people are like, no one does it like Christopher Nolan? And I'm like, a lot of people do it like Christopher Nolan. Like, there's a lot of great filmmakers out there. And people are like, I was seeing people be like, I just saw The Northman, and Robert Eggers clearly went all in on historic accuracy. And it's like, here's the objective ways this movie's brilliant. And I'm like, as someone who's like, I love The Northman, that's not what I responded strongly to in The Northman. And I'm like,
I mean, The Northman failed blockbuster.
Yeah, eventually.
Sorry.
Eventually. It is at $50 million right now.
Okay, but I mean, it's not going to turn a profit.
It would have been one of those, I feel like in another year, like pre-pandemic, it would have been one of those movies that like bombed here but did like huge in Europe, you know? Like,
yeah.
But it's not really doing that. But it's one of those things where people are like, you could tell, it's the weird, like, we have to turn a director into like an objective genius, you know, that Film Twitter doesn't really do, but occasionally does. There's a little bit of that for Michael Mann. Michael Mann still feels like he's only worshipped in Film Twitter, but like there's a worship of people like Christopher Nolan and people like Quentin Tarantino.
No, hang on. There's a worship of Michael Mann by Film Twitter. And Guillermo del Toro.
And dads over the age of 55 across America. And those are the three groups that... but it kind of feels like Guillermo del Toro loves everything, though.
Know what comes out that's really popular and he ends up not talking about. This isn't like any specific... I'm not even calling out any specific film. Just notice when stuff comes out that even like the general public is raving for... If he's silent on it, I think it's for a reason. I listened to an interview with him on the Kingcast, for example, just because I love... Like, he's one of those guys I love hearing him talk, right? Doesn't matter when or where. And I actually like the Kingcast.
What is the Kingcast?
But, it's a Stephen King podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I listened to another King podcast called Just King Things.
I like that title.
That's good.
But Guillermo del Toro was talking about, like... Or he was asked what Stephen King... novel would he like to adapt, or like what inspires him the most?
Did he say it?
No. And I think he didn't because he produced Andy Muschietti's first feature, Mama.
Yeah.
And so they're buddies, so I don't think he would talk ill of him. Although I don't believe he likes it. Just as a personal belief, there's no evidence of that.
He was supposed to have a cameo in it, too.
And he saw the movie and he was like, you know what, Andy? No. But he did mention that, like, I would really like to do Pet Sematary. Like, I would still like to do that.
Yeah, and that just had a remake.
Yeah, and he was like, I think there's a really good version of that out there. And that's all he said. And I was like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Del Toro is one of those guys kind of where it's like his silence speaks volumes. Like,
yeah. Well, remember when Pacific Rim 2 came out and that opening weekend he was just talking about like other shit he really liked.
Yeah. Here's something weird. This has nothing to do with what we're discussing.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to The Insider, I swear to God.
But is Guillermo del Toro and Robert Zemeckis feuding?
Oh, you know what? I never even considered that.
Because
Del Toro
has a writing credit on The Witches that came out, and Del Toro was supposed to do it. And whatever happens, Hollywood, it didn't happen. Robert Zemeckis ends up doing it. It's really bad, right? Robert Zemeckis' next film is Pinocchio. Guillermo del Toro's next film is Pinocchio. Two separate Pinocchios at the same time. What's that about, man?
I never considered that, but maybe it's a possibility. Exclusive?
I mean, it's very odd that like they're both doing those projects, and maybe they tried to work together at some point and then had a weird falling out, and yeah, it's odd. It's just an odd coincidence of things. Also, Del Toro also didn't tweet at all when The Witches was coming out, a movie he ostensibly wrote. He's one of 3 writers attached to it.
Didn't he?
Didn't
that come out like 2020? Right?
Yeah, it came out 2020. It was one of those. It was like one of the first wave of things that just went straight to HBO Max.
Okay, well, in his defense for not tweeting during that one, he was probably like knee deep in Nightmare Alley. Like he didn't tweet for like a good portion of that because that was like a big project.
I get it, but The Witches was one of those things that like before he was ever attached to it, he was like, I would love to do an adaptation of The Witches. Like it was one of his projects that he was like, that's kind of a dream project for me. Now Guillermo del Toro seems to have 50 dream projects.
Yeah,
but it's a little odd.
So we know he doesnn't like The Witches or Pacific Rim 2.
Yes. Hey, did you hear about the falling out between Adam McKay and Will Ferrell?
I did.
I just learned this like literally last night, and it was like shocking.
Yeah, I know, it's sad because
it is
Adam
kind of
McKay
sad.
was even like, yeah, I fucked up.
Yeah,
like,
Adam McKay. It's weird. It sounds like Adam McKay like definitely was like kind of did like the dick move in that whole thing. But there is something weird with Will Ferrell right now, where we have Adam McKay who's like swinging like to the left of Bernie Sanders these days. And then you have Will Ferrell out there, and he's doing, like, Daddy's Home 2 with, like, Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson. And it's produced by Gary Sanchez, their old production company. And Adam McKay is, like, a pinch hitter, like, writer on that thing, like, uncredited. And then there was the whole weird thing of, like, FunnyOrDie.com, the website they both started. Like, Adam McKay walked away when they, like, did something with, like, ExxonMobil and shit.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's like, what's going on there? Like, it was that thing I never could reconcile where I'm like, I don't understand how Adam McKay is like this really left-leaning guy, and then his best friend in the whole world, Will Ferrell, is out there doing a Mel Gibson movie, under their production label. Like, it was something I could never reconcile, and then when this falling out happens, it's like, there might be something there. Like, something odd, something that we don't totally know about. I'm not saying Will Ferrell's a bad guy, just like there might be some tension there is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't know. I know he's a I don't know how left wing or anything like that, but he votes Democrat. He has a history of voting Democrat.
He voted Democrat, and he made a big deal about being one of the first guys who like parodied the president on SNL to be like, I am not going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Like, he made a statement like during the Bush era where it's like, I think what Bush is doing is bad for this country, and I'm not really in the mood to buddy around and joke with him, you know, like, which is kind of like, that's actually a kind of big thing to do at like peak Bush, you know, like, but yeah, it's odd. Also, it's so odd that he got passed over. The thing is that like he lobbied hard for the lead role in the Winning Time miniseries, a role that went to John C. Reilly, and they're also like best friends, you know. Like, it's so strange. That's one, like, I don't get too into Hollywood gossip, but that's one where I'm like, that's kind of wild.
You know, I can actually bring this background to the insider.
No, yeah, I was about to say, you know what I need? I need an insider for that friendship.
No, mine was better than that.
I need an insider from Gary Sanchez, the production company. I need someone who was there on the ground to talk about this with me, personally. For no one's benefit.
I was going to say, I think there's some heat between Eric Roth and Michael Mann. Shocker that someone doesn't get along with Michael Mann. Because back in the 2019 roundtable, I believe, 2018 for THR, after Star is Born, because Eric Roth wrote the new version of Star is Born.
Yes.
He was mentioning, I forget what the question was, but he was talking about how he had worked with his history working with very prolific directors, and he had mentioned that there was a director that he made good work with but didn't really get along with, and they tried to put another project on the ground at some point, and it only got about halfway completed, and then it died, and they haven't really worked together since, and he's not interested in working with him anymore. To the best of my recollection, that's the chain of events. Looking into Michael Mann and Eric Roth worked together on The Insider and a little bit after.
And Ali. They did Ali together.
They did Ali. And then in the interview Michael Mann does with that fucking Charlie Rose dipshit, the last question Charlie Rose asks him is, what's next for you? And he says, I'm working on a Western with Eric Roth. I think that might be the next one, but it'll take us like a year to get it off the ground. And then, that ends up being Ali. And then the plan was to do the Western, I believe, and then that faded away. So I'm willing to bet Eric Roth doesn't like Michael Mann very much, and that's fine. That's not a judgment on either of the characters. It sounds like I love Michael Mann. I totally get people not wanting to work with him.
Here's something interesting, though, with what you're saying. Like, I'm like, that's interesting. I'm looking at who Eric Roth has worked with. I'm looking at, like, a list right now.
Mm-hmm.
And unless I'm missing something, do you know who is the only director he has worked with more than once?
Don't tell me. Hang on.
Michael Mann.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I'm trying to, like, it's a list. I'm trying to see if there's like other names, but it's like he worked with Spielberg once, worked with De Niro once, Fincher once, Cooper once, Villeneuve once, and it looks like he's not doing. Is he doing the Dune sequel?
He's doing the Dune sequel.
Okay, so there's that, but that's basically one. Like when you break it down.
Yeah,
like,
he had a treatment. He talked about that recently after doing Dune. He was like, "Yeah, we got a treatment going."
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then it's like, and he's working with Scorsese once for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
So it's Zemeckis once, Costner once, Redford once. Like,
oh, you know what? Then hey, maybe what the real lesson here is that Hollywood gossip gets you nowhere.
But also, Michael Mann is a guy who, like, he'll have like a good working relationship with someone and then like immediately burn that bridge. Like,
to go back to Black Hat, the soundtrack is credited.
Yes, I was about to bring that up.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought it up.
Reznor and Ross, I believe, both of them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then one of them made a very public tweet where he was like, "Yeah, it's not really our music." He kind of took over and just kind of reworked some other stuff he had interested in, and so it's not really our stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I thought the score was pretty good."
But then didn't Michael Mann like say something like?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember the quote exactly. So like, but he said something like, if they want to be musicians, they should stick to music. Like, he said something wild like that.
God.
It was like, whoa, okay.
Jesus Christ, dude.
But yeah, I'm looking at. But also, Michael Mann, I was trying to think. So, yeah, he was supposed to do a Western with him, so that didn't happen. Michael Mann, I was like, for a second, I thought Eric Roth might have had something to do with Michael Mann's unproduced Gates of Fire, which is the unproduced Battle of Thermopylae movie that he almost did.
I fucking never knew that. What the fuck?
You didn't know about that? Yeah.
No.
I don't know if Eric Roth was writing it. I was just thinking about it. But there was a Michael Mann, basically Michael Mann's 300, like, that he was going to do.
Fucking damn it.
And allegedly, it's one of those ones that, like, he kind of still wants to do. But I think after 300, studios were like, we're not going to touch this for a while. But, 4 more years, 300 will be like 20 years old. So
yeah. Well, he's got Ferrari next up. It's official.
Yeah,
Ferrari.
Which is kind of wild that is the next one he's going to do.
Let's go.
But again, we've been at the fucking Ferrari, line like a dozen times at this point. I will not believe that movie exists until I'm sitting down in a theater.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like, and even then, I feel like there's a chance I buy my ticket, sit down, and the movie starts, and Michael Mann just comes on camera. I was like, we had creative differences at the last minute. I shot the movie, but it's not coming out now. And then he walks away. I was like, all right.
Well, filming is due to commence mid-July.
Yeah, again, like, I'm not holding my fucking breath. Like,
yeah,
it's like, true. There's a good chance, like, we get to July, and he's like, fuck him. Like, something or other happens.
That's true.
Oh my god, Eric Roth wrote Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
I know.
What a weird and varied filmography.
I think we talked about him before too, because he also wrote Forrest Gump, and then you had a good take on that film where it's like, it's meant to be a satire directed, like, incorrectly almost by Robert Zemeckis.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if it was Zemeckis' fault, though, because the reason I looked at it as a satire is because of Zemeckis. Zemeckis' like whole career before that is like totally satirical, Like, it's after that he gets really sincere. Mm-hmm. And it's weird where I'm like, I don't know if the switch flipped in his head or if he tried to if Forrest Gump was like him trying to do like, it's a satire, but I'm also going to be genuine. And then he just decided to go more genuine afterwards. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's all of that is strange. He wrote Airport 79. What? The Concorde. We should do the airport movies.
Sure, fuck it.
Talk about movies that have like aged like worse than milk. Like, none of those movies have any standing today, and they were like the blockbusters of their era.
Yeah.
How many airport movies are there?
I have no fucking idea.
4.
Oh, what?
There is 4 airport movies.
Jesus Christ.
Just as many as Jaws. So, Airport was nominated for Best Picture, which makes it a failed awards contender.
What about Airplane?
Hey. That's the thing. Where Airport was like a huge franchise, and everyone basically says Airplane just killed the Airport series. Like, after that, no one could take it seriously.
Speaking of projects that were killed,
yes.
Do you know Michael Mann almost worked with John Logan, or he did work with John Logan, and their film never got off the ground either.
Oh, what was that?
It was going to be a Hollywood film noir that would have starred Leonardo DiCaprio and would have taken place in the 1930s. Investigated some fictional and real-life crimes, to the best of my understanding. I actually have this script. I haven't read it yet.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
There's another guy with, like, a wild career in terms
John
of, like,
Logan is an incredibly talented writer.
He is, but he also is attached to a lot of movies that don't showcase that talent.
You don't like Star Trek and Nemesis?
There's that. I'm not even going to throw your Alien Covenant under the bus. It's like, he's got, like, fucking The Time Machine. Like, that's a weird movie. Like, The Last Samurai. Mm-hmm. Some of these are movies I just don't care. Like, Sweeney Todd, like, I can't even really say that's a bad script. I'm just like, I'm kind of one of those, like, I'm just too much of a purist, so, like, any deviations from the musical, I'm like, fuck you. Like,
oh, and to be clear, there is no title for the Mann Logan project. The title page simply reads Mann/Logan Project.
Mm.
So
it looks like John Logan is going to be directing his next film.
Ooh.
He's making the leap, like Aaron Sorkin before him.
I don't know. Well, John Logan at least seems like creatively he's got his finger on the pulse.
But you can see it in his filmography where it's like he writes Gladiator and then immediately signs on to like a million projects. Because it's like, because his next films right after Gladiator are The Time Machine, Star Trek Nemesis, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, which is an animated film, the movie that killed 2D animation. But was also Jeffrey Katzenberg trying to be like, look, we could do animated Gladiator. And the box office was like, no, you can't. And then Last Samurai, which is clearly trying to be like Gladiator, but with samurai, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then he goes and does The Aviator and then disappears for 3 years.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd. Oh, then he fucking writes Rango.
The Aviator, which Michael Mann has an executive producer credit on. Because Michael Mann almost directed it.
You want to know another connection between The Aviator and Michael Mann and The Insider? Both produced by Disney.
Oh yes, I was thinking of a time when we would bring that up.
Yep. We'll talk about like plot logistics and historical
something
bullshit.
That would just like talk about something that would never happen today.
Yeah. So this is where I get to also yell at people, and they're like, "No, see, like Disney owning all these different brands gives them another avenue to making different types of films," and it's like, no, it doesn't. I know smart people are arguing this anymore, thankfully. But that definitely was a big thing that was being touted around. And I'm pretty sure that was a psyop of some kind. Because, like, that's just not true.
It was the way to justify buying 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, and it's like, well, now we're going to shutter all Searchlight productions. Anything that was there kind of gets to finish off, and now stuff is done.
I mean, here's the thing, like, the incredibly cynical look at that is that, like, they literally bought 20th Century Fox just to fill a hole they had for when they were jumping to streaming, right? Like, they needed that prestige, because it's like, okay, you have a lot of Disney stuff, but you don't have any prestige films. Whereas, like, HBO Max kind of has the opposite problem, where, like, they're mostly prestige stuff, but they're not like an IP mill like Disney, at least not yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, did they just buy 20th Century Fox just for all those movies? Like, I guess Hollywood is that cynical. But also you can tell there is, like, some awards envy with Disney. Like why else would they do the audience award thing? But, like, yeah, why would you buy 20th Century? Why would you want all these things if you're not going to? And it's not like Searchlight would ever produce anything that would compete with Disney, you know? Like, but that's that weird Disney thing of, like, every dollar that goes to someone else is a dollar they could have gotten.
Yeah, well, you gotta remember, too, I mean, I think there's a lot of respect people have for someone like Bob Iger, because he's supposed to be, like, some legendary producer, marketer, CEO, whatever you want to jerk off to under the reins of capitalism.
He was a genius who came to Hollywood and said, "What if I just bought things that were profitable?"
That was my ultimate point. Thank you. Yeah,
I mean, why do people think Elon Musk is a genius?
Yeah.
Like, all he did was buy things.
I'm gonna link the Stavros clip in the description.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't make the cars.
Yeah. Everything he has, he's bought, basically. Like, he's not this genius. And Bob Iger is the same thing. Yeah. And, if you want to give Bob Iger any credit, he saw where the puck was going, like, a little faster than other studios, right? Like, it's that thing of, like, Paramount could have totally locked down that relationship with Marvel. And, like, right before Avengers, they're like, this shit's probably got, like, 3 more movies left in it. And then, like, you know, Bob Iger buys them before Avengers comes out and looks like a genius. But, yeah, like, all he did was, like, all he was doing was expanding the Disney brand. And, like, yeah, but again, it's, like, not a sustainable business model.
Yeah, no. And, I mean, I think it's telling that all their actual original, like, family films are being dumped on Disney Plus and receiving either lukewarm reviews or being eviscerated, like the new Home Alone, which I'm not watching. I'm not throwing any negativity towards. I'm just saying, like, the reviews were fucking brutal for that one. Yeah, and that seems to be occurring a lot. But all the IP stuff that people have generally enjoyed that's still being released, those are getting a little softballed, in my opinion. even for stuff I generally have also enjoyed.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying. I think it's not brainwashing, but I do think it's like training audiences to receive certain things. And it's just the end result of buying all the stuff people ended up liking at one point or another.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about... It's just... Although, remember when Disney Plus launched and there was, like, a bunch of, like, day one family films that, like, no one had ever heard of?
Yeah, oh no, that was the funniest that was one of the funniest fucking days on Twitter ever.
Yeah, and it was like, where did these come from? And there was, like, the Bill Hader one. Do you remember that? It was, like, a Bill Hader Christmas movie, and it was... And people were like, where did this come from? And it was like... Disney shot these movies like 3 years ago and then didn't know how to release them because they've just forgotten how to release anything original. Like, they only know how to release IP movies now.
Speaking of failures, at least
the Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
Oh, Joe Johnston's last film.
What a guy everyone likes.
Oh,
anyway,
it's so tragic. I had a soft spot for his career, and it's a bummer. But
Joe Johnston, I gotta say, looks angry in his Wikipedia picture.
Yeah, he's apparently a little difficult.
And it's him at like a Comic-Con panel.
Yeah. Shout out to Captain America: The First Avenger, the best one still.
No. The Insider.
Oh, okay. I was talking about the Captain America movies, but okay.
Yeah,
The Insider. The
I
Insider
don't
was also
know.
failed.
I don't know anymore.
Okay, well, who cares? The Insider was also failed to be marketed properly, and it made $60.3 million against a $68 to $90 million budget.
It also had like a pretty spirited publicity campaign leveled against it by Mike Wallace.
Yes.
Who hated the movie.
And this is also why I brought up Charlie Rose earlier. And I brought up this interview before, but I don't think people understand, like, the gravity of the interview. It comes out after The Insider's released. Charlie Rose immediately opens the interview with, like, I need to declare my loyalty to CNN. I need to make it clear that this is a film. This is... You took liberties. I don't think he said the word liberties, but he's basically saying, like, the film is different from reality. And then Michael Mann would go on to reiterate, like, well, you know, if you look at the interviews, like, the video interviews that took place in reality that we drew upon from, it's pretty accurate. Now, to my understanding, it is about, like, 70% accurate, and Michael Mann would acknowledge this as well. It's not 100% accurate. Stuff like the bullet being left in Russell Crowe's mailbox is not a thing that happened.
I thought that did happen.
Did it?
I could be wrong. I'll go with you. Let's say it didn't happen.
I'm pretty sure that one didn't happen.
That is a wild thing.
I didn't double check that, but I remember that came up a lot. So it really would have been like a fifth check, but you know, I'm pretty sure that's not real. Stuff like CNN and CBS, not CNN, CBS, excuse me, being dicks about the interview going live on 60 Minutes is apparently very accurate. To the point where the Al Pacino character's Lowell Bergman leaving the studio because he thought the integrity of the institution was too damaged is a real thing that occurred. Like, that's not fiction. You can't make that up, you know? And I don't believe he ever went to work back for them because he was like, fuck this. Like,
it is kind of wild that this is, you know, it's based on a Vanity Fair article from like 96, like, and this is a movie from 99. And it is this, like, it feels like very, like, forward-thinking movie of, like, kind of what we're witnessing right now with, like, the death of journalism, you know? Like, it is a movie about, like, with all these corporate interests, like, kind of tripping each other up behind the scenes in, you know, the news world. It is kind of like the end of this, like, any sort of integrity a news channel could have. It's a movie about how institutions are cancerous, basically. It's not just the smoking industry, but that's the big part of it, you know? Yeah. Well, that's what's so cool. That's why this movie kind of rules, is just, like, it's a movie about, like, okay, we're going to expose the tobacco industry, right? Which, it's kind of wild that, like, the tobacco industry was able to hold on for so long saying cigarettes weren't addictive. Like, what was it? What are they? The seven dwarfs of the tobacco industry? They call them, I believe. I think so. In this movie, and they how they like they're all kind of this united front that like will not admit these things, and this it's a big deal when someone finally goes on the record saying yes, cigarettes are addictive, which is something that is just common knowledge now, and it was also something that like you feel like everyone knew it, you know, but there was just no legal grounds to deal with it. And then halfway through the movie, it's like a movie like the first half where you're like, yes, journalism, yes, the power of a good reporter. It's like the fucking All the President's Men, you know? Like, that's the first half of this movie. And then the second half of this movie is like 60 Minutes becomes the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, and that's wild. That's what I really like about it. And it's also one of those movies that, like, I love this movie, and it also leaves me feeling, like, deeply depressed at the end of the movie. I think this is this weird ramp up to, like, I consider Miami Vice, Public Enemies, and Black Hat to be like this weird trilogy of like technological apocalypse.
Okay.
I feel like all this, but Insider feels like an odd like prequel to it, of just like the beginnings of like corporate capitalism like is just going to erode all faith in institutions.
Would you say it's his Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith?
Listen now.
I'm sorry.
I stopped myself from saying that this was the Hobbit to that trilogy. Because I was like, that would be a fucking dumb thing to say. Don't say it. And then you throw that shit at me.
No, it's better than the Hobbit one, because then it would have been bad.
Listen, no, that was bad. You fucker. Listen. Also, it's weird that this is also a movie that, like, the opening of this movie is kind of, like, about Al-Qaeda. Like,
No, it's Hezbollah.
It's Hezbollah, but, like, it's the weird, like, this is the type of news stories that were happening all the time, where reporters would, like, literally, like, get, like, you know, fucking, bags put on their head and like, interview, like, Osama bin Laden in a cave somewhere, you know? Like, that's what's happening at the time the story is set and at the time the movie's released. Like, those are two very common things happening. And also, the fucking Unabomber is, like, the subplot of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild. He leverages the Unabomber story to get what he wants. Like, that's crazy.
I wanted to also mention that I've been a little cynical myself about like the state of journalism. Not inherently journalists, but like kind of what gets more access. You know what I mean? What gets more attention? Who is able to kind of frontline these stories as investigative reporters or whatever? And oftentimes it's not really hard hitting journalism. It's very softball journalism, and I think we're all kind of starting to understand that. Before his passing, I listened to an interview with Peter Bogdanovich about how, because he started as a journalist as well, and he was talking about how like there was you would spend like a month with your subject, you know, either living with them or like spending every day with them to cover and do a profile on them, so you really got the sense of who they were and they couldn't really hide anything from you, right? And then I saw an episode of Barry that just aired, and the character Sally is premiering her new show, so she has to do a lot of press junkets, and she's like getting ready to divulge her spirit. She's like, what if I say the wrong thing, because this is like a very personal show to her? What if I don't say the right thing? What if I don't convey like what the show is really about? And then she starts getting asked the questions, and it's just a fucking joke, because we've all seen the sound bites and the talking heads of what gets asked now. It's like, who do you think the next Spider-Man is going to be? You know? It's not real journalism. It's publicity. And I just bring all this up because this episode's probably going to be really cynical and probably end on a really cynical note, because this is an incredibly cynical movie. But I do think the tide will turn eventually, because we're all just aware of how this fucking bullshit works now.
Well, there's so many things right now where, like, I have to say the tide will turn. Not because I do believe it. I'll say that. I don't want to get too cynical. I do believe the tide will turn on a lot of the horrible shit happening right now. But I'm also saying it because it has to.
Or we all just die. Whatever. You know?
No, it has to. Like, it really has to. And it's news is definitely one of those things where we're at this weird breaking point with news. And it's so weird when you get people who are like I have conservative relatives who will go on in about like how terrible CNN is or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what power do you think CNN has? Like, that power of journalism just doesn't exist anymore. Like 60 Minutes, remember, is like the most watched when this movie is set, and I believe when the movie still came out, 60 Minutes was the most watched TV show. Like, it's the number one show on television, which just isn't the case now. Now it's fucking like Young Sheldon or some shit.
Yeah.
And like news just doesn't have that reach anymore. And I feel like we also live in this era of like who was the guy who tweeted like, I've been working on this story for months, and he just tweets it out, like when one of Donald Trump's sons just blatantly admitted to a crime on Twitter.
Oh yeah, God, what a fucking my brain's never gonna recover.
But it's also like that's just showing like that like journalism means nothing right now. Like that guy could have broken that story, and nothing would have happened. Because what has happened since Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out? And why was he comfortable enough to just tweet it out? Because he knows he'll experience no consequences. Because there are no consequences for the rich anymore. Like, that's where we're at as a world. Like, it's... And because, of course, also the rich all own all this shit. They all own 60 Minutes. Like, they own the news. So they can allow... Like, it's all what's ever in their best interests. And they're not, it's a more fucked up thing is like they're not putting out straight propaganda. Of course some are. Like I don't want to, like there's definitely a weird like uniformity of opinion. But it's more like they're diluting the product so much that it doesn't matter what's on the news anymore. Like some guy it's that weird thing of like how there's so many UFO stories right now. And it's like, it feels like that should be a bigger story, and it just isn't, because it doesn't matter. And this is a weirdly, like, I don't know what the word would be. There's a word, and I can't think of it, but it feels oddly ahead of its time in that sort of thinking. And I don't know if maybe people... Because there's a lot of takes about the news of just like, the news, they distort things, they blah, 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 yellow journalism and all that stuff. And it's like, that's, yes, all that is bad, but that is not the focal prop of journalism these days, in my opinion. But it's still like boring takes like that, and this is a movie not about that, really, There is that angle, I mean, we when Jeffrey Wigand's character is like, starts getting attacked from all angles, when there's a straight up hit pieces being put out against him. But again, it's like where news turns into this weird like corporate arm. This movie's a lot, especially now.
No, I mean that's what really hit me on this rewatch. It's just like it's such a movie of the now, of the time, that it almost feels wrong to say like it saw it coming or something like that. Like maybe it just. I mean, because it's also based on a true story, that it's I don't know, it's almost like eternal, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's this weird thing. Michael Mann has this weird finger on the pulse that just, he's kind of ahead of his time, because I think, because there's all, we talked about, like, film Twitter kind of, like, loves going in on Michael Mann, loves talking about him obsessively and stuff like that. And you can talk about, like, the technical side of his filmmaking, but a guy doesn't resonate with that many people just from the technical side of it, And I think there is something, especially in his later work, that really tapped into a lot of what's going on right now that maybe people that took for granted at the time, that now it's like oddly precedent or something like that, and it's weird. It's weird to see Michael Mann get boiled down to like, oh, his movies are just propaganda or something like that,
Yeah.
And then you watch a movie like Collateral, which is very much a movie about how the police will not protect you, like, and it feels oddly fitting. I don't know, but this one, and it's, I don't know, it doesn't get talked about as much, I think, because it's like, it's seen as like his kind of adult movie. It's this, although This and Ali kind of are like the two less talked about Michael Mann movies, and I think those are both really terrific movies. I really like Ali. I seem to be the biggest fan of Ali when I talk to other people. We almost did Ali. We almost did Ali.
I also love Ali.
It would have been weird, considering what happened while we were recording the failed awards contender.
Yeah. Hey. No, but I think you have a point too. And like when I tried initially doing like a smaller snippet version of a Michael Mann retrospective way back in the day, I kind of had like these bullet point questions to ask the guests I would bring on. It would be like a favorite Michael Mann shootout and stuff like that. And then like I stopped doing that and I started reconsidering like my entire approach to Michael Mann, because I was like, you know, it's not just that makes a Michael Mann movie. You know, I had other stuff too, but I don't remember what they were. And the conversations weren't just about the action in his films, obviously. For a great action podcast, go check out Action for Everyone. But I really started thinking about like, God, like, let me sit down and rewatch The Insider. This is like 5 years ago, maybe now. And you know, that's when The Insider like really jumped out to me. It's like, oh fuck, this is totally like, this might be his best like directed movie, like all the way through. But then that changes every time I watch another Michael Mann movie.
Yeah, so. It's one of those things where like, whatever was the last Michael Mann film I watched is my favorite Michael Mann movie.
Yeah,
like,
I stopped updating my Michael Mann ranked list because I was like, it's Manhunter at the top, and then everything else kind of fits into second place, and then Public Enemies at the bottom, and then LA Takedown is in the back after I shot it in the head.
Yes.
Which, you know, no ill will towards Michael Mann on that one. That's just a... You can't do Heat like that.
Here's one thing I got to throw out there is Michael Mann's Collateral might be the only movie that has worked for every single person I've recommended it to.
Even Heat, really?
Even Heat. Well, Heat's like a 3-hour movie. Like, there are some people that just are not going to do a 3-hour movie. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
But Collateral is a movie. It's like a solid 2 hours, and if I'm ever like hanging out with someone and they want to watch a movie and like they're having trouble picking something, and I'm like, I don't want to sit here for an hour trying to pick a movie, I will kind of force Collateral because I know it'll work, and it does every time. There's
one person I you know, you mentioned that, like I've also gotten very positive responses to Collateral whenever I recommend it. Kaylin, I don't know if you're listening to this, old friend, very close to them and their family. She could not sit through it for whatever reason.
Really?
Yeah, so I hate you. I'll bring back your Tupperware next time you're in town. But
okay.
Yes, that the one person who could not, who wasn't fully engaged with it.
Friend of Diego, you might be the only person on the planet. Like, just based on my experience. Because I have shown movies to people where I'm like, there's this movie, everyone loves this movie, and like they just don't like it, you know?
Yeah,
and I've been like, wow, but I've never had a miss with Collateral.
That's pretty good.
I crashed and burned with recommending Manhunter.
Yeah, no. I know Gene and Nick, friends and co-hosts of podcasts. I don't think they were super into it when they first saw it, but I know it stuck with them longer.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing: it's not a movie night movie. You know.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like the friends I took to see the new Doctor Strange, which we'll talk about eventually on another podcast. Everyone enjoyed it to the degree that I was like, I'm gonna fucking show all of you Evil Dead this summer. Like, I'm really excited to sit all of them down because we had a big group to go see that movie and do that. That's a great movie night movie. All three of them are great movie night movies. Michael Mann is not that.
Here's, in my experience, Evil Dead and Army of Darkness kind of have a hit and miss ratio with people.
Yes.
But Evil Dead 2 works with everyone.
Evil Dead 2 is maybe the greatest thing to ever happen to cinema.
Yeah, but also I was going to say that Michael Mann is this weird, like, he's got this weird reputation of, like, dudes rock bro cinema, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, his movies really don't work like that, you know?
No. Like they're very manly men, and they're kind of like, I'm a man, I'm going to protect my woman, but I think he doesn't get credit for... I would say his women are less well written and less well realized, but they still have like their own like agency and stuff like that. Like even if it's a role with like the grieving wife or widow or something like that, right? It's not just that. Like you can feel that they have a life outside of what we're just watching on screen.
I will say, I think The Insider might be the biggest train wreck in terms of female characters in a Michael Mann movie.
Okay, I'm glad we agree, because I was like teeing all that up and I was gonna be like, however,
yeah, it's this weird like, it's like Lowell Bergman's wife is like kind of like just like a silent like support, you know, like she'll chime in occasionally to be like, keep at it, honey, and then you got Jeffrey Wigand's wife who just like abandons him, and it's this weird thing of like she's framed as like in the wrong in that, but like it does kind of come across that Jeffrey Wigand is like kind of a fucked up dude.
Yeah, by all accounts, an anger problem. I mean, he is pushed against like.
Oh my god! I just clicked on Jeffrey Wigand's Wikipedia.
Oh no!
And no, there's a picture of him from 2006.
Okay.
And I gotta say, he does kind of look like Heavy Set Crow does now.
Really?
Like, yeah, it's like I can kind of see it.
All right.
And it's like, I'm like, the only person on the planet that looks like Russell Crowe is Russell Crowe. And it's like, no, Wigand does definitely have some Russell Crowe energy to him.
I see it, yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely Heavy Crow in there. Like, that's kind of wild.
Both Jeffrey Wigand and Lowell Bergman were also, like, active in the production of this film.
Yes. Well, no, Wigand was not, because his non-disclosure agreement prevented him from talking to anyone. He was still under that agreement. I believe he was able to meet with Russell Crowe once, but they couldn't talk at all about the investigation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing.
Okay,
like, Russell Crowe only had that.
Here, go ahead.
I just said Russell Crowe, like, kind of, the only thing he had to work with for the longest time was the 60 Minutes interview.
Okay, like, well, Wigand is in a behind-the-scenes featurette on the DVD and Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm. But okay, maybe it's listed, but whenever they were making it, he still couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, so. Well, to your point, and I believe that makes sense. He doesn't like describe anything in the legal proceedings. He's just talking about the experience, you know? Mm-hmm. Like that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's. But Lowell Bergman definitely was involved. Mike Wallace was not.
Yeah, who you mentioned already hates this movie.
Oh, and like to talk about like this being maybe like the biggest disaster in terms of the female characters in this movie. There is that amazing scene where Christopher Plummer just goes all in on people for like editing his scene. Mm-hmm. But then like he starts talking to what's her name, and he's like, "It's Mr. Wallace," and it is a little demeaning. Like it is a little.
Gina Gershon, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's her. Yeah. And it's like.
Who is great in everything, but yeah.
Like Mike, it's Mr. Wallace. What does he say? That is a wild. That might be, you corporate lackey. Like if anyone started yelling like that at me, even if it was like a script where I knew those lines were coming, I would start crying.
Yeah, like, no, Christopher Plummer just had that energy, you know.
Yeah. It's so weird. Christopher Plummer has like a weird like grandfather energy, but also that like he has these two sides to him.
No, that's why he's fucking perfect for something like Inside Man, Spike Lee's Inside Man.
Yes,
where he's like, you know, we're here for whatever you need, officer, and it's like, oh, you weren't being a protective grandfather, you were hiding your Nazi blood money.
Yes.
Spoilers for the Inside Man, which is a terrific.
Also, that's why it's like that wild thing of like him being all the money in the world, you know?
Oh yeah.
It was supposed to be Kevin Spacey, and not to give any benefit of the doubt to Kevin Spacey, but just going based on that trailer, he's got like a way different angle on John Paul Getty, right? Mm-hmm. Like where it's like you look at Kevin Spacey's John Paul Getty, and it's like this guy's a piece of shit from the get-go, and Christopher Plummer's Getty is like a subtle piece of shit, like. Yeah. It's the performances are so different and so wild, and Christopher Plummer is like ultimately the much better version, you know. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I will never know, of course. But wasn't Plummer like the first choice, and the studio was like, "Nah, you got to go with Kevin Spacey. He's big right now." And then
Wow, I didn't.
yeah, I think that's the story, which is why Ridley Scott, when it was like, Ridley Scott, we got to do something about this. He's like, no problem, I'll get fucking Christopher Plummer. That's kind of a failed awards contender.
Oh yeah. Failed award contender and failed blockbuster in the same year.
Yeah, failed basically, and just failed everything.
No.
Not quality, but like there's a lot of failure going on in that movie.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Kevin Spacey's John Paul Getty, and it looks like a cartoon.
Yeah, no, it's like the fake makeup and everything like that, and the prosthetics.
Which is a thing that the Academy likes for some reason.
Yeah.
And it might be a combination of Mike Wallace didn't do that, and that Christopher Plummer didn't wear makeup, and that Mike Wallace went all in against this movie. That for some insane reason, Christopher Plummer isn't even nominated for this movie. Like, it's a Best Picture nominee, not Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Actor for Crow, which makes sense. Crow is terrific in this, but nothing for Plummer. That's insane.
No, didn't Michael Mann get nominated Best Director?
I thought he wasn't nominated.
No. Academy Awards. Yeah. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor.
Okay, I thought it was one of those weird ones where they just gave it to Picture, but like, because it was one of those movies that came out and like got good reviews, but then it kind of was like, by the time it was nominated, everyone knew it wasn't going to win shit because it didn't win a single Academy Award.
Yeah, which in hindsight, you know what? 1999 was a fucking incredible year for movies.
It was a stacked year, but it's also one of those years where it feels like a lot of people that won shouldn't have won, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Because
who wins Iron Giant and The Matrix came out that year.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
No Academy Award for Best Animated Film at the time.
No.
Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Which was basically put in so it could be the Pixar Award. And then Pixar doesn't win it like the first 2 times out.
Fuck yeah.
Because it's, I think, does Shrek win?
I think Shrek beat it. That's why Jeffrey Katzenberg was like, I'm fucking king of the world.
Yeah, Shrek wins, and then Spirited Away wins the next year. Which, of course, Spirited Away.
Oh, yeah. Best movie ever. To more award stuff, I want to shout out Dante Spinotti, who's worked with Michael Mann a bunch of times, and is an incredible cinematographer. Like, maybe top 5 living cinematographers for me. Like, just legendary in every sense of the word, and for some reason they hired him to do Ant-Man and the Wasp at one point. You can't tell he shot that movie. I don't believe it was actually
that
shot.
Might be the worst thing you've ever said to me.
Yeah, no, that was really upsetting. That was back when I was trying to give that movie a softball, and then I was like, wait, what?
Although
like
I am looking at his his like last few years.
It's rough.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's
I don't
rough.
know if it's just like he can't get work or I mean, he did Public Enemies, which looks amazing.
I've really warmed up to the look of that film, and that's the thing. He's really willing to like experiment, and like in a public conversation for the 20th anniversary or 20th anniversary for Heat, and he was talking to Christopher Nolan, who was hosting the Academy talk for it for the 4K print screening of it. And Nolan was asking about the film stuff as he does. And Dante Spinotti was like, I want to mention that I think the film has never looked better. I think the capabilities of digital technology allow us to push the colors in a direction that you cannot get to the photochemical process. So he's a really big proponent of like pushing what's capable of an image, you know?
Here's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, Public Enemies to me is one of the best examples of what digital film can do, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like he can't adapt to digital, but then it's like after that, it's just garbage.
Yeah.
Like,
for people that don't want to open Wikipedia, let's get this out of the way. Public Enemies 2009, then Chronicles of Narnia 3.
The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the one that no one saw, and that Disney had the rights initially, and then was after that like we're just not like that was the one where Disney had like handed it to 20th Century Fox, like which now they own again which is insane.
Which I think is a really fun book, and that would be a fun one to adapt.
The Narnia books are actually kind of fun. They tried to turn them into Lord of the Rings for some reason.
Yeah. Really quick, let me just run down the list, because this is shocking. Tower Heist.
Well, that's the other thing. He's Brett Ratner's guy, because he does Brett Ratner's Red Dragon.
Because he shot Manhunter, and he was like, if I'm making Manhunter, I might as well just get the Manhunter guy.
So he's been with Brett Ratner since The Family Man.
Yeah, I got concerns now.
Yeah, X-Men: The Last Stand, fucking Tower Heist, which you were about to say, and that kind of interrupted, and the Hercules movie that no one remembers that there is a Dwayne Johnson Hercules movie.
Yeah.
Which, do you remember the trailer for that? Was Brett Ratner in the trailer?
No, what?
It used to play, and maybe it was like a Regal Cinema thing, but the only trailer I remember for that movie was Brett Ratner like talking to the camera, being like, I remember talking to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and him saying, I was born to play Hercules. And that was the trailer for that movie.
Anyways, I don't even know what the fuck. Fuck Brett Ratner. Yeah, you got stuff like I Saw the Light, which is like one of Tom Hiddleston's dramatic roles.
Like a forgotten Tom Hiddleston movie.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston's such a good fucking actor. And then, outside of the Marvel stuff, he just hasn't been able to find something to like carry him.
I think they all see him as Loki, which is a real... Like, that's the thing. I watched that Loki show, and I wasn't like a giant fan of it, but it was one of those things where I was kind of like, man, they kind of wasted fucking... they kind of wasted him, you know? Like, he's really good as Loki. And... in a weird way, it's like one of the better villains of the Marvel Universe.
No, Loki's got a lot going on. Some of the stuff gets a little inconsistent at some points, I still argue, but like, that performance is so fucking good. In Avengers, too. Like, I think people kind of dismissed that one because he kind of like lost his marbles by that point, but he is really good in that movie. And I'll go to bat for him hard, yeah.
I'll give him this. He's got a great run, like, in the 2010s. Like... He's F. Scott Fitzgerald and Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris.
Oh, yeah. Which, I gotta wait till he's dead to rewatch that. But
yeah same. A movie I liked when I saw it. But
no, same.
Now,
yeah, unfortunately.
I'm not.
Unfortunately.
He was in the Deep Blue Sea. Do you remember Deep Blue Sea?
No, yeah.
Not the shark movie. The other one.
Yeah. It's Rachel Weisz, right? She's in that?
Yeah. Only Lovers Left Alive. He's really good in that. And he's great in Crimson Peak.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a fantastic movie.
To the Michael Mann thing, to tie it back to that, Tom Hiddleston has multiple times that his favorite film is Michael Mann's Heat, and that it's everything he thinks a movie should have.
There you go.
So, he's a man of taste. Someone fucking give him something.
Yeah.
Please, fucking God.
Oh, he was on The Night Manager. I never saw The Night Manager.
No, that's one of those fake British shows that they make for awards.
No, but it's a John le Carré adaptation.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. So it might be really good.
Yeah, it's directed by the woman who did fucking Bird Box. And other things. So yeah. I don't know how that's affected it, but hey, I usually like John le Carré adaptations, even when they're not the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's a weird one where like people just ignore that there's been like a bunch of those lately, like The Little Drummer Girl, a fucking Park Chan-wook directed adaptation.
I know, which I cannot find now.
It was on like the Sundance Channel or something ridiculous like that. Let me look up if it... I'm actually going to look it up so I can tell people to go watch it if I can find it anywhere.
Until quick. Then, John le Carré Cinematic Universe?
Hey, you know that you could do that. All right, I guess it's still on the Sundance Channel. Sundance Now. And it's on AMC Plus. But I don't know, there is a censored version of it. Like, because it was for television, but there was also an uncut version. Abby, if you're listening to this, I know you're not because you're sick of people talking about Michael Mann, but you seem to be able to get a hold of these things.
Oh, wait, was she one of the people that was tired of Michael Mann?
Yeah, she tweeted like a little while back. She was like, "I want people to stop talking about Michael Mann."
Oh, I'm sorry. That was not a sub tweet podcast moment. That was I literally saw like plenty of other people.
I know Diego was saying to me before we recorded that it was directly aimed at Abby, but hey, I'm joking. But Abby, if you're listening, since now you're enemies with Diego, but my best friend, if you can get a hold of like a digital file of the Little Drummer Girl directed by Park Chan-wook, send it to me, and I will keep it for myself and share with no one. It's really good.
Yeah.
And then that Dante's he did a bunch of other shit that no one saw.
Yeah, but
He did Black and Blue. Remember Black and Blue?
Oh.
He teamed up with Deon Taylor. Like, that's so strange.
That is strange. That is strange.
Bunch of weird.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
No, that's the next week podcast.
How endearing was it that Sam Raimi in every interview called the movie Doctor Strange 2?
He's just the best. Did you see him doing like his little fucking Three Stooges bits when he was like walking onto stages and getting like applauded, and then he'd be like, "Stop it, stop it, okay," and then he'd like cheer himself with the hand gestures, and yeah, and then he was like, I think he went to like some theater in Hollywood, probably Chinese theater, and he got a standing ovation. He's like, "Oh, thank you, you know, I take tips for this. It's $1.50. Just kidding. It's like $1.25." And it's like he's just like, what a guy, you know, what a filmmaker. Fucking give him all the spotlights.
Give him. I just want footage to surface of him hitting Benedict Cumberbatch with a stick on the set of Multiverse of Madness.
And then Benedict Cumberbatch is like, "You have to keep throwing that at me, Sam." And he's like, "You talking back to me?"
Yeah, exactly. I want that footage.
Sam, I won't be spoken to in that manner.
That is the best.
Yeah, that's the problem with cinema. Sam Raimi left.
Yeah,
and Michael Mann doesn't get to make his psychotic industry films anymore.
Won't someone throw these old white men a bone?
Truly the most oppressed people in the world at the moment. Yeah, you know, again, at the end of the day, these are old white guys. They had their time. I'm glad Sam Raimi's back, and I'm glad Michael Mann made a fucking just library catalog of basically 4 to 5 star movies on a bad day.
Al Pacino is in this movie?
Al Pacino is just fucking... I think people kind of forgot how good he was for a period because, you know, he had some stinkers. But watching stuff like this, and it's like, oh yeah, he is one of the best to ever do it.
Mm-hmm. You know, though, he was also someone where, when he had a sinker, like, you could say, like, all right, he was at least trying something, you know? Like, whereas, I think the flip side is De Niro, where De Niro, it feels like he's like, I'm using this to buy more real estate. Like,
fuck him. Fuck him.
Basically.
Sorry.
But Pacino... Yeah, I don't know why he was so... I mean, that's also the thing where, like, Pacino kind of disappears in the 80s. We forget that, too. That, like, everyone's like, why did he get an Oscar for Scent of a Woman? It was like, because based on his work in the 80s, it looked like he was never going to get nominated again. Like...
What, people don't like Cruising?
Hey. Do people like Cruising now?
I like Cruising. It's a fucking problematic fave, as you coined it, but it definitely... it's very well directed... That's what I'm gonna leave it at. But anyways, Al Pacino, he's like, you know, I can imagine Michael Mann being like, you know, Al, I want you to really try, you know, really experiment with your performance. I don't want you to be Lowell Bergman, but I want you to be Lowell Bergman. Do you think that, Al? Do you think you can give me a chance? And he's like, don't mind if I do.
Rip Torn is also in this film.
Fuck yeah, Rip Torn.
Speaking of yelling men, there's a lot of guys like Rip Torn and like Cliff Curtis who have like one scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, and they're great. Like, fucking Michael Gambon, who's like one of the tobacco CEOs, and he basically disappears from the movie.
Yeah, he has the one scene, and Michael Mann, in multiple interviews I saw of him, some of those videos only have like 50 views too. It's like, you fucking people don't cherish what you have.
I also, again, not to go back to Raimi as well, I've also been going through that with Raimi where like I'm looking up interviews with him and like they're like in the hundreds of views maybe.
Yeah, and it's like, you people need to stop taking this for granted. I feel like, did you ever hear about the Sam Raimi bit where he had to like fucking basically yell at the producers of John Woo's Hard Target?
Oh yeah,
and he's like, "This is a John Woo picture. You let John Woo make his picture." That's me. It's like, you people, you got a Sam Raimi picture. You pay attention to a Sam Raimi picture.
But wasn't that weird thing where they wanted Raimi to take over Hard Target?
Yeah, because first he was like kind of like basically ghost producing it, and then John Woo was like, "He's a nice guy, but I don't know why he's here." And then he eventually was told that like he was there to take over the movie if the producers didn't like it, but Sam Raimi never like that was never his goal personally.
Yeah,
he was just there, and he was like, "You fucking idiots! You hired John Woo. You let John Woo work. You let the painter paint."
We kind of undervalue that John Woo was like the one guy to come over from like, you know, like Hong Kong or like from like overseas guys who like came to make American movies who was able to retain his style in Hollywood for at least a few years, you know?
Yeah, I was going to be like, how dare you forget Chewie Hawk, but he only made like 2 Van Damme movies, so...
But also you can feel like Hollywood kind of like ripping their soul out a little bit, you know?
Hey, no, Knockoff and, what the fuck is
yeah. I guess you're right.
But no, I get what you're saying, yeah.
But like there's like a weird like clipping of their wings that seems to happen like Woo kind of retained his in a way that made people go like, I mean, people talked about Broken Arrow and Face Off like they were terrible movies for a long time, and you watch them now and you're like, these are fucking like modern masterpieces.
Yeah. Double Team was the other film I was
by
the way, which rocks. And yes, as I mentioned before, only my family was there day one on the Face Off train.
I watched Face Off not knowing it was a movie about guys' faces coming off.
Oh, you thought it was just like like a Double Team title.
I thought they were fighting. Yeah. I'm like, okay, Travolta, Cage, they fight. And the moment I realized it was about faces coming off, I laughed for a good 5 minutes. That the movie is called Face Off, and it's about faces coming off. And it's like, how do you not give that movie 5 stars?
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing. I'm Castor Troy. Amazing.
Hey, I think Pacino and Crow could have done Face Off.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't want that version, but I'm just saying, like in the multiverse of madness, they probably.
Here's the thing, Daniel. Hollywood comes to you, and it's like you have as much money as you want to remake Face Off.
No.
But you have to use Pacino and Crow now.
I'd still do it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but
That's
I wouldn't. I think it's a fool's errand to touch Face Off. Just like I think it's a fool's errand to touch most Michael Mann movies.
They're doing a Face Off sequel, right?
Yeah.
With Adam Wingard. Yeah. Not the choice I would have picked, and I'm not even like an anti-Adam Wingard guy.
Yeah. He's a good surprisingly good action director, in my opinion. I don't think that sort of maximalist energy, that kinetic energy that people like John Woo have, I just don't think this industry in America right now is really allowing that to flourish.
It's not in America, and anytime it starts to crop up, we kill it. Like, and it's
that's why, that's why I think the horror industry is really interesting right now. It's because we're starting to see that kind of come back. Like, people lost their fucking minds over Malignant last year, you know?
Yeah, but at the same time, I know a lot of people saw Malignant, and we're talking about the movie like all those choices weren't intentional.
Oh.
And like I'll say this has been something that's really frustrating as I went through Sam Raimi, like kind of revisiting it. And talking to people who maybe like have just watched some of his stuff, and it's a frustrating moment where people are like, "Yeah, I like the Spider-Man movies. Yeah, I like Evil Dead," but then they talk about it, and they talk about it like the way you would talk about The Room, and not in a like they thought it was like as bad as The Room, but they're like, "Yeah, isn't it it's stupid that XYZ happens, but I like it anyway." And I was like, "No, that was intentional." Like, it wasn't like Sam Raimi showed up one day and didn't know how to do a movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he chose to do those things. He chose to have, like, you know, scene transitions like that. It's not an accident. And that's a weird thing that I think younger people don't understand. There's a weird irony poisoning going on, you know?
Yeah.
And a weird, like, movies that are ridiculous by mistake. No one is intentionally ridiculous. And if they are intentionally ridiculous, it's Deadpool ridiculous, which isn't really ridiculous. It's just like that weird, like, yeah, I know this is stupid, you know? And that's a weird... I don't know how to deal with that. And that's why, like I said, if someone like John Woo comes over now and shows up with that stylization, people would just destroy it. And they would talk about it. And even if they liked it, they would be laughing at it more than laughing with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Nicolas Cage, you can see that all in just Nicolas Cage's career with that movie of his that just came out, which I saw, and it wasn't awful. It was like a surprisingly sincere movie, but it's a weird window into how other people view Nicolas Cage, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That, like, Nicolas Cage is still a joke for a lot of people. It's just that we're all kind of in on the joke, right?
Yeah.
That's what people think. And it's one of those things where, like, no, Nicolas Cage is making these choices because he believes in them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to do something different that isn't conventional, and just because it's not conventional doesn't mean it's a mistake. And yeah, I'm a little frustrated with how we talk about those things today. A weird indifference to sincerity that I find annoying and frustrating. That has nothing to do with The Insider.
I know. I don't. What is happening today? We're both like on the ball. It's just the ball's like rolling rapidly away from us now.
I think there's just a lot on our minds.
I think so. Let's fucking pump out some more about The Insider. How fucking good is Debbie Mazar? And she never pops up and stuff ever.
Yeah, Debbie Mazar's good. Where is she lately?
I don't know. You never know these days.
Yeah. You never. You know, it's been one of those things that, like, ever since, like, the Me Too movement, anytime I read anything where it's like, she was considered difficult to work with, I'm like, what the fuck was going on there?
Yeah.
Like, now, like, anytime I read that someone was difficult, I'm like, there's more to that story.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like, oh no, they were just difficult. But, like, other times it's like, wait a minute, man. Hey, we got a guy returning to, awards contender. Our boy Wings Hauser.
Hell yeah.
Mr. Legency.
Yeah, no, he's
remember
fucking...
when Christopher Plummer, as Mike Wallace, says Mr. Regency makes out with his wife 5 times a night? That's why they call him Mr. 5.
No, and then Bruce McGill tells him to wipe his smirk.
Wipe that smirk off your face!
Yeah. Oh, so fucking great.
Again, like, that is a scene. Like, yeah, Bruce McGill, we gotta talk fucking D-Day from fucking Animal House as the lawyer. And I gotta say, like, Wings Hauser, not a guy known for his acting ability, frankly, but does a great scene where he's like, Dr. Wygart, I am instructing you to answer the question in accordance with the terms of a contractual obligation. Like, that's a really good little monologue.
Yeah, it's like intense.
Yeah, it's intense. And then he's like, you know, he gets that ball right to fucking Bruce McGill. And McGill's like being funny with it for a minute. Like, you got rights and lefts and ups and downs and middles. Like, he's all over the place. And he's like ramping it up. And he does that, like, this is not North Carolina, nor South Carolina, nor Kentucky. This is the sovereign state of Mississippi. And like I said, I got no fucking investment in Mississippi as a human being. Like, anytime I read about Mississippi in the news these days, it's usually because they're passing some fucking horrible law. But in the moment, I'm like, yeah, goddamn right, this is Mississippi. Like, oh, it's so like oddly satisfying. The sovereign state of Mississippi.
Yeah, to go back to an earlier point too, like the struggle to like gain victory over like Brown and Williamson specifically is like it's really like invigorating and almost kind of inspiring. And then the film like and the truth of the situation is that like the victory is not like a concise like fuck yeah, like we're gonna party on Coruscant now. It's just like we kind of won.
We won the battle, but
there
lost
you go.
the war.
Yeah,
like, that's really what I mean. It's over by the end of it. Like again, it's like a movie that's like fuck yeah journalism for the first half. Like you know that whole thing. It's like they're fighting this weird legal workaround to get Jeffrey Wygand to go on the record. And you're like, fuck yeah, play the system, man. Fucking fuck their rules, man. And then when 60 Minutes turns into the bad guy, it's like, wait a minute. Holy fuck, this is fucked up.
Mm-hmm. You know, which is a big part of why fucking clowns like Charlie Rose were like, you know, it is a film, you know. And he's trying to emphasize that. And it's like, no, we know. We all know. We all get it.
Why did Charlie Rose exist?
Yeah, that's the thing. I've talked shit about him before, and I'm going to keep doing it again because he was a sex pest. But even beyond that, he just wasn't a good interviewer.
No, he wasn't. Because, I mean, Charlie Rose is a guy I found because he was I will say this, he got on the internet before a lot of other people did. Like in like the Google video days, if you went to Google Video and typed in like interview director, you could find a Charlie Rose interview online, you know?
Or that great Paul Thomas Anderson one. You have Jeremy Blackman, Tom Cruise, Luis Guzman. Like, and it's just like, he just keeps going, and it's like, oh, there's no point to this. Okay, got it.
And it's, well, that's the thing. It's like, you go like, all right, yeah, I would love to hear the Coen brothers in an interview. And then it's fucking Charlie Rose, and it's like, this guy sucks. And, like, these questions suck.
And he just, like, because Michael Mann is such a thought-provoking filmmaker. Like, even in his, like, interview conversations, like, and he's very giving with his time. I'll never forget, there's a good interview, or not a great interview, but, like, there's this kid who's clearly anxious and nervous about meeting one of his, like, cinematic heroes. And so Michael Mann's like, I kind of went along in the last question. You do another one. It's fine. Ignore him. And he gives him the time. And then versus, like, Charlie Rose, who's like, you know, tell me what the movie's about. And Michael Mann's explaining the logistics of, like, the real-life situation, how it's, like, a complicated story. And he's like, well, I asked you 12 minutes ago, but can you tell me what the film is about now? Because you're going off on... And it's like, dude, what... Did you go to school? Did you get an education in any of this, or are you just a fucking hack anyways?
He's kind of like that guy who used to do the Hollywood roundtables.
Yeah, who thankfully doesn't do them anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't do them anymore, but be like, you know, like fucking Quentin Tarantino would give like some really like specific answer, and then he'd be like, and what do you think about that Ang Lee? Yeah. And like throw out Ang Lee, and Ang Lee's like clearly like, I don't know. Like, because he's Ang Lee. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, those some people are fucking just stupid.
I will say, I'm dunking all these people. I freely admit I would be a terrible interviewer. So, but I've also stayed away from pursuing any career like that.
Yeah.
But
also, Charlie Rose was a sex pest, so double fuck him.
I guess he made his first appearance in like years recently.
Really?
So in April 2022, Rose made his first public appearance since 2017, hosting an interview with Warren Buffett.
That's upsetting.
What happens when Warren Buffett dies?
Well, then the dollar drops.
That would be kind of wild if a guy died and that happened.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm predicting the future in this podcast.
And it leads to a run on the market.
Yeah.
Edward George Ruddy died today. That's from Network. You ever seen Network?
Yes, it's great.
So what's that got to do with the price of tea in China?
Speaking of Sidney Lumet, Michael Mann noted that was a big like inspiration in his approach to this film, and I think you can kind of feel it. At least in terms of like his blocking of the actors, it feels more.
There is also
not
like
stage play, but like you get what I'm saying, right? There's a more focus on that, on the people within the spaces.
There is also a certain desperation that is in Network that is captured here a little bit. That kind of ramps. Michael Mann ramps it up slowly, whereas like Lumet, it's like desperation from the get go, and it gets worse.
Yeah. Oh, but I just immediately my brain thought of like that moment when Al Pacino's on the phone on vacation. And, he's in the ocean. He's like, I was fighting for you. I still fight for you. And he's just like in the middle of this fucking hurricane.
Yeah.
It's just like, that was a real fucking hurricane. Why'd you make him film it during that?
Which might be that means Michael Mann is filmed in the middle of 2 hurricanes.
Yeah. No, I don't know why he does. I think he does that because like, not hurricanes specifically, but like the time of the year in that region of the world, because like the clouds make it very moody and atmospheric, and it's like, yeah, that's great, dude.
Yeah, that makes it
hurricanes are real dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, maybe don't do that for Ferrari.
I don't know if there's anything. What could we give you a good frame of reference to explain how terrible a hurricane could be? I mean, no one can picture just how bad a hurricane is. It's not like hurricane is used to describe something.
This is a great film. I frankly don't know how much more we can go on it.
Yeah.
We've been hopping around a lot already.
That's the problem with us doing Michael Mann, is that like everyone's already said everything you need to hear. Like, so we're just going to talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah. Shout out to Marie Brenner for her Vanity Fair article, "The Man Who Knew Too Much," which I mentioned before, because that's like a legitimate piece of journalism and kind of broke open like the tobacco industry, and of course gave us this great film. So, suck my dick, tobacco industry.
Yeah, that's the lesson to take away.
Yeah, and
the only people that did something wrong.
Yeah, and that capitalism is the thing worth rebelling against.
It's kind of weird that tobacco is still so powerful.
Yeah, that like we all know now, like that no one's like lied to.
It's also like tobacco is like one of the first industries in America too. Like,
there's probably
like
a metaphor in there somewhere.
It's like that and gunpowder. Like,
yeah, see, like you don't even need to like draw huge thematic swings to that. Like it's all there.
Yeah. No, like everything about America is like a parody of itself.
Yeah.
Like,
America is a satire of what's wrong in the world.
Exactly. Like it is kind of why the Michael Mann aesthetic has become so popular, because it's like he's just America's id in a lot of ways.
Well, it's Michael Mann and Michael Bay.
Oh, Michael Bay is what I said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Michael Mann is the hard-hitting truth. Michael Bay is the repugnant truth.
Yeah, I guess that's what I want to get at. Yeah.
Michael Bay made his Michael Mann movie with 13 Hours.
Okay. I never watched it.
It's one of the best looking movies ever made. I fully believe that. Ethan liked it.
Yeah. I can't do the Michael Mann thing like everyone else.
Michael Bay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I don't know. I get what people are saying. I hear what people are saying. Intellectually, I understand what they're saying, but it is in no way made watching his movies more enjoyable. So, I have not seen Ambulance yet, though.
You might like that one.
I might, but I'm not rushing to see it. Did it bomb though? Because then it could be a failed blockbuster.
It did bomb.
Made $50 million on a $40 million budget. I guess that's a bomb.
Yeah, it wasn't successful.
Yeah, so maybe we can work that one in. It would be interesting to talk about, because we already did The Island, so it's like the only time we talk about Michael Bay is when we talk about his bombs.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Oh, why did we not do Pearl Harbor? That is like...
Is that...
a down the middle failed awards contender. Like, That is 100% what that movie is.
Yeah, yeah.
That is his, like, one attempt to do an Oscar movie.
What's that one quote he said about, like, making Pearl Harbor? He's like, at first I wanted to make something that was like everyone else, and then I was like, fuck that, or something like that. And he was like he had some quote about how he was like, he was trying to make a serious film, and then he was like, I'm gonna make a fucking Michael Bay movie. And it's like, that's fine to feel that way. I don't know if Pearl Harbor's the one you do it with.
Yeah, it's a weird movie.
It's a very weird.
It's a very weird movie. It feels like a movie about Pearl Harbor released in the year 2001 feels like it should be one of the most important movies ever made.
Mm-hmm. Was it released after 9/11?
No, before. Would have been wild if it was after.
Yeah.
But it could have gotten like that second wind from like awards nominations, and it didn't.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been hysterical. You know.
Yeah. But it's also a movie not really about Pearl Harbor. It's about the Doolittle raid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Pearl Harbor happens, and then like an hour of the movie is left.
Yeah.
It's you know who's good in that movie? Dan Aykroyd.
Really?
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd's great in Pearl Harbor. He's got like 3 scenes, but it's just him being like, all the naval officials are like, I think if we're gonna get attacked, it'll be California, and he's like, sir, I think it'll be Pearl Harbor. And like he lists all of like the important things about Pearl Harbor and Dan Aykroyd's way of listing information.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you're fucking on the money, Dan Aykroyd. Like, it is that funny thing of like they somehow turned the movie Pearl Harbor into one of those like they didn't listen to the one man who knew type movies.
Yeah.
Which is
that
also
was Michael Bay's thing for a little bit too.
It was Michael Bay's thing. It was also it still is Roland Emmerich's thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, which is kind of crazy that Roland Emmerich is still doing that.
Yeah. We did talk about it before, but he did say that like he won't be doing the crazy conspiracy theorist anymore. He
won't do conspiracy theorists anymore, but he probably is still going to do the one man who saw it coming.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If we do not beat global warming, and we all die, it's Roland Emmerich's fault. I think The Day After Tomorrow did more damage to discussions of global warming than any other film ever made.
I don't know. I don't know about that. There's just such, like, historically, there's been such a pushback against accurate science reporting about global warming, climate change for, like, over 50 years at this point. So that's
all of that is very important. The Day After Tomorrow did the most damage because more people saw that than anything else. That movie made $500 million. And it's a movie where people literally run down a hallway trying to get away from climate change.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
I think a conspiracy theorist, Art Bell and Whitley Strieber also wrote a book that it is kind of based on.
Well, The Insider was a movie about a real conspiracy and thriller situation.
Yeah, are you trying to say global warming isn't real?
No, whoa, no. I mean, just like
Diego said it. Diego said it.
Roland Emmerich films are not reality.
You said it. I didn't say it.
No. That's not. I think people understand that's not where I come from with this.
I was wondering why this episode was sponsored by ExxonMobil.
Let me just quickly pull out my stocks from Shell.
Let me cash all... Oh, I just knocked over a whole stack of checks that were sitting next to me to keep the global leftist conspiracy going.
Oh my god.
You know, the global leftist conspiracy, which has been having a lot of wins lately. A lot of wins for the left lately. That's how you know it's a conspiracy. They just keep winning against all odds.
Anyways, Matt, would you recommend The Insider?
Absolutely. Nothing better to take your mind off of things today.
Yeah. It's the fucking best. It might be the best movie we've talked about in the failed award contenders. And I'm not just saying that because I adore Michael Mann. Like, it straight up might be the best. It's like this.
And thankfully, we barely talked about it. So if you were on the fence somehow for this whole episode, you now you can like be pleasantly surprised by everything that happens in it.
Well, let's see. What were the best ones we talked about? It's The Insider, Michael Clayton, Cloud Atlas, Kingdom of Heaven.
Speed Racer.
Failed award contenders?
Oh, I was. It should have been an award contender.
It fucking should have been.
I
JFK.
combined. Yes.
But I hesitate to recommend that one. And of course, Tough Guys Don't Dance. Have yourself a nice little Wings Hauser double feature.
Oh yeah.
Because
you know what my favorite scene in this movie was? When you're in the courtroom and the camera's on Wings Hauser, and then they slowly pan over to the outline of a machete on the courtroom wall.
Oh, so fucking funny. Anyways, Matt, thanks for joining me on this episode of The Insider, and also lots of other stuff that were on our mind.
Norman Mailer is in Michael Mann's Ali.
That's not true.
A guy playing Norman Mailer,
okay.
I should say. Because he was at the Ali Foreman fight.
Ali stinks.
No, he was a big Ali fan.
Okay.
I'm serious, honestly, like I said, this has nothing to do. We're now like totally off book. But if you watch When We Were Kings, like you'll get why Norman Mailer was popular when you hear him kind of talking poetically about Ali and Foreman. And like he's like everyone thought Ali was gonna lose, and he's talking about like how like there's a stink of death in Ali's room as he waits to go out to fight, and like he's doing a lot of that. But he's really good at talking about those things, and it's like, wow, okay, I kind of get his appeal now, but now that I know everything else, kind of hurts that appeal.
Why? What was he up to?
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry. Matt, where can the people find you?
I'm at EmperorOTN1 at Twitter.com.
And you can find me at the Diego Crespel. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon, where you will eventually be able to get early access to other retrospectives we do. Failed Blockbusters up next. And also that aforementioned Scream 5, aka 5 Cream, Eternals, No Way Home, Doctor Strange, the recap retrospective.
5 Cream sounds like a very different film.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe all the characters 5 Cream together.
That's the worst thing you've ever said on this podcast.
I don't know anymore. I'm interested in seeing what I think about it because people seem more mixed on it than ever. So
I'm interested in seeing what I think about it.
Yeah.
That's this whole podcast in a nutshell.
Yeah. We've been professional and unprofessional. Get the fuck out of here.
Go away.
Yeah.
We don't need you. Get the fuck out.
He's only the key witness in the biggest public health reform issue in U.S. history. Does he go on television and tell the truth? Yes. Is it newsworthy? Yes. Are we gonna air it? Of course not. Why? Because he's not telling the truth? No, because he is telling the truth. And the more truth he tells, the worse it gets.
You manipulated me into this.
I fought for you, and I still fight.
The American public need to know.
Jeffrey?
And you wish you hadn't come forward?
Dr. Wagon's deposition will be part of this record.
You wish you hadn't blown the whistle?
Do I think it's worth it?
I told the truth. It's valid and true and provable.
These people, that's not the point whether you told the truth or not.